Hello and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we're playing Farming Simulator 22, and we are taking a look at the Allis-Chalmers line of tractors, which can be modded into the game using 3 different mods, which I will have linked in the description of this video. And with all that being said, I also have a real-life farming channel where I do all of my real-life farming activities, and that will also be linked in the description and probably in a pinned comment. I definitely recommend checking it out if you're a fan of agriculture, as that is where I do some real-life agriculture. So with all that being said, let's dive on into this video. So if you haven't ever seen one of these before, I've already done a series of these for 3 different types of Deutz tractors. I've done Minneapolis Moline, Oliver, White, and now I'm doing Allis-Chalmers. Basically, the premise is I like playing this game. I spend a lot of hours playing Farming Simulator, but I don't really like all of the modern equipment. I like kind of the golden age of tractors and agricultural equipment, which I would probably consider to be from like the mid-60s through the mid-90s. And now it's possible that that has something to do with my age and a bias of the equipment that I saw working in fields and used growing up. But that being said, I also think that this period of time had the most innovation and difference in your stuff. I think nowadays when you buy a tractor, whether it's green, blue, or red, they're all basically the same and act basically the same and looked basically the same. It's just the price tag and the color that's different. Whereas back in the day, there were actual, real, tangible differences, and every new iteration of tractor actually broke ground, or it fell behind. And I think that that's more fun to play with. So this video will help you transform, or at least add in an entire lineup of Allis-Chalmers tractors, all the way down from 119 horsepower up to 302 horsepower on the large end, which will give you more than enough power to achieve pretty much any realistic task in the game. With that being said, before we dive into the different mods and what tractors they add and the options for each one, I do just want to quickly talk about Allis-Chalmers for a little bit. Now, I'm not an Allis-Chalmers guy. I've used a couple of them. I have just passing experience with them, but I have seen them around. I'm from Wisconsin, and this is a Wisconsin tractor company, which makes me wish that I liked them more, because that way I could really support, Wisconsin. I like to go for my local thing, no matter where that's from. That's why I like Minneapolis Molines. Even though I'm not from Minnesota, Minneapolis is, it's actually closer to me than Milwaukee is, which is where Allis-Chalmers is from. So the Allis-Chalmers company was founded in 1901 in Milwaukee, with origins in their original agricultural work going all the way back to 1844. So again, we're looking at a classic American agricultural company, just like I do with most of these videos, that can trace its roots all the way back to the mid-1800s, and then of course proudly made tractors up until the 1980s when we had tons of economic turmoil. And for Allis-Chalmers in particular, in my opinion, being a big Deutz fan, they had a lucky fate, because Allis-Chalmers was purchased because they were going bankrupt, because they had just gotten too wide. Basically, Allis-Chalmers had fingers in every single pot, and they were bleeding money all over the place. So in 1985, Klockner Humboldt Deutz, the parent company of Deutz Fahr, purchased Allis-Chalmers' agricultural division and formed a new company called Deutz Allis. And this lasted from 85 to 1990. With the fall of the Berlin Wall, Deutz decided they did not care to pursue a tractor manufacturing company in the United States, so they sold the shares of Deutz Allis to Bob Ratliff, who then used Deutz Allis to form AGCO, and they shortly after, that did all sorts of different business acquisitions, eventually acquiring companies like White and the distribution rights for Sami in North America, and then also eventually the distribution rights for Massey Ferguson, and finally purchasing Massey Ferguson, which now exists as the name brand for AGCO. But that being said, at one time Allis-Chalmers and Deutz was pretty much all they had, and Allis lived on through the AGCO Allis brand for a couple more generations into the late 90s and maybe even early 2000s, showing off that orange color scheme. So Allis-Chalmers, you can say it died in 85, or you can say it died whenever AGCO stopped painting tractors orange. But either way, I would realistically say it ceased to be a company when it was purchased by Deutz, because then Deutz Allis took over and became its own thing. That being said, lots of cool heritage there, and lots of excellent tractors added into the game through these mods, with pretty solid options all the way around, and I think for the most part, pretty well done. I've seen most of these tractors in real life, and these do a pretty good job of looking like them. So, as far as purchasing these goes, there are none of them that fall under the small tractor class. Most of them are in the medium class, class, one of them is in the large class. So just going into medium tractors, we can start just kind of going down the line. There are 3 different series, or I guess two full series and then 1 individual tractor that we'll be looking at today. The 7000 series is an earlier series. These start in, I believe, 1974 is when the first model was produced in the 7000 series. And then the 8000 series is kind of starts off, I believe, in the late 70s and goes through until they're bought out by Deutz in 85. So that being said, the 7000 series mod is, I would say, better done than the 8000 series. Just they look much nicer, have a lot more options, all that sort of stuff. So we'll start with the 7000 series and just go up the list from there, since these are the earliest ones. Like I said, this mod is very well done. These tractors look fantastic. They got the color pretty much perfect, and lots of options here. So the smallest one is the 7045, which has 146 horsepower. Then we have the 7050 with 156 horsepower, the 7060 with 161 horsepower, and the 7080 with 181 horsepower. So all of those look pretty much the same. They don't really change a whole lot going up the models, other than the number and the horsepower, obviously. We have all the same options for each of these models. So Trelleborg tires, Michelin tires, Continental tires, Midas tires, Verdstein tires. Then we have quite a few different wheel setups. We have standard 2, so it just changes the front tires. Wide tires 2, so again we have those alternate front tires. Rear twin wheels, and rear twin wheels 2. So the 7000 series, the biggest distinction you'll see between the 7000 and 8000 series, I mean, there are obviously other distinctions, but the biggest one is that I don't think the 7000 series had front wheel assist options. Again, I'm not an Allis-Chalmers expert, so if I have that wrong, let me know it in the comment section below. But I know the 8000 series does, so I don't know if that's the main thing. I do know that, especially when you, in real life, when you got to some of the bigger 7000 series tractors, and especially if they had like duals in the back, they always looked really funny to me because they were pretty big tractors, you know, pretty beefy all the way around, big wide front ends, but then they had these teeny little tires in the front. They always looked so funny to me. So when they switched in the 8000 series, when you have the front wheel assist, that's when they start looking a lot more normal, in my opinion. But we have lots of exhaust options. So we've got this first one where we have our exhaust going through the air cleaner first. This is something Caterpillar does with a lot of their stuff. So you have clean air coming into the tractor, and all of the stuff that gets filtered out gets then sent out through the exhaust. But that's one of our options. Then we have another one with a low air filter, high air filter, or air cleaner, I should say. Then none. Then we've got one with a chrome muffler with the low, chrome with the high, chrome with none, and then chrome straight pipe with the low, chrome straight pipe with the high, chrome straight pipe with none, and then, or not straight pipe, but curved pipe, and then another version of chrome for that. We have a gold one, and then we get to the straight pipe with 17. So lots of exhaust options. Then we have 2 different cab options. We have the Acousticab 2, which was the later option. That's 1977 to 1981. And then we have the Acousticab 1, which is 1974 through 1976. You can see they look mostly the same. The big difference is up here in the front. With the earlier one, it stuck out further, and then it had the lights up on the curve there. And then with the later ones, it was flat on the face and had the lights off to the side. Then we have front weight options, so none. We have the weight bracket. 1 rack of weights, 2, 3, so you can go all the way up to presumably somewhere around 1,000 pounds worth of front end weights. And then of course you can customize the colors. So we have Alice Gray, which is 1977 through 81, and we have Alice Brown, which is 74 through 76. So if you want to go with the early ones, you go with the brown undercoating. Rim color, we have white or black. I like the white better. So I also like the gray better than I like the weird maroonish color that they had going on earlier. So that is our 7000 series. Our 8000 series, which like I said is a slightly later. These start in the late 70s, I believe, and go through to the Deutz Alice buyout. This is the 8010, which is our smallest tractor in the Allis-Chalmers lineup, which has 119 horsepower. We have the 8030 with 148 horsepower, the 8050 with 169 horsepower, the 8070 with 189 horsepower. And so those are pretty substantial offerings. I mean, from just over 100 horsepower all the way up to almost 200 horsepower. And then of course we only have a couple options for this, those being the wheel setup. So we have wide single tires, narrow selection singles, wide rear duals, and narrow selection duals. So not a lot of options there, but I would say enough. And again, we have the front wheel assist, so our front tires are significantly bigger, so I think they honestly look a lot better. So much more simple than the 7000 series. Like I said, the 7000 series mod seems to have had a lot more work put into it than the 8000 series mod, and you'll see more of that when we're touring the tractors, because I'll show you the interior of the cabs. The 7000 series has a lot more detail to it. Then looking at our final tractor in the lineup, we have the 8550, which is a large four-wheel drive articulated tractor that they made. And I know that they were particularly proud of this one because not that long ago I watched the original promotional video for it on YouTube, and boy do they love talking about it. I feel like it was a 30-minute long video, so quite long. But we've got a couple different tire options, so Michelin and Midas. Then we also have the several different wheel setups. So we have the 520 85 R38s, singles and duals. We have the 865 R32s, singles and duals. The 650 75 R32s, singles and duals. I use the duals on my setup. So various different tire options for this, but they all basically just go down to singles and duals with, you know, different tire size. Then we have terminal options, so no terminals, the GPS terminal, phone stand, or both. And then we have exhaust options, so you can see we have dual exhaust on this thing. So we have standard, straight pipe. Those are the two options. I went with the straight pipes on mine. And yeah, so that is our large one. That's, like I said, 302 horsepower. Pretty cool looking articulated tractor. I honestly, I think it stands out well for the 70s and 80s and even into the early 90s. Most of your articulated tractors kind of all looked the same. I think the Allis-Chalmers had a pretty distinct look, having that big, long front end up on the top and then the very narrow articulation point, which gave you a pretty good turning radius, it being a little bit longer there. So pretty solid tractor there. $152,000 in the game though. And so that's the entire lineup and all of the options. So like I said, I think that the 8000 series in real life is just a better looking tractor, mostly just because of the front wheel assist. But I think in the mods here, the 7000 series was better done. So just to we'll take a peek at the 8000 series first, because they're all identical regardless of model. So here's the 8010. There's our startup sound. You can see we got plenty of black smoke coming out. Got a deep rumble to it. I think it has a overall pleasing sound to it. We'll put her back in our parking spot. And then we'll take a peek at the inside. So you can see the cabin side is just extremely basic. We've got basically nothing going on. We got two pedals down below. We have at least some stuff on the dash. It's better than certain mods I've looked at where there's zero detail on the dash. We've got a little bit here, but very, very low level of it. And then we, of course, have our extremely simplistic looking PTO, gear shift, range, and hydraulic controls to the right and nothing to the left. So fairly Spartan cab interior, I would say, for the 8000 series. The 7000 series, inversely, is extremely detailed inside, or at least extremely detailed for the time, because this looks a lot like the inside of a 7000 series Allis-Chalmers cab, because I've been in one before, and this is what they look like. So you can see we've got our light controls and radio controls and heat and stuff up top. We've got all of our dash stuff. We've got our range control there. We've got our throttle, have two brakes and a clutch pedal down below. We've got our range and gear shift and hydraulic and PTO and all that stuff off to the right side. More detailed seat. So like I said, the 7000 series mod has significantly more details than the 8000 series mod. And of course, our last one, oh, I didn't even, I'll have to do that here. That's 8000 series. Here's 7000 series. I'll show you the sound for it. So you can see it's fairly quiet. Got more of a turbo whistle to it, I would say. And then looking at our last one, our 8550, the big Allis-Chalmers horse. Again, not an expert, but I think this is the biggest Allis-Chalmers tractor you would ever see produced, was the 8550. Not just overall size and weight, but obviously horsepower too. So there's our startup sound. You can see our big old cooling fan turning up in front. Kind of a big, chonky tractor. I like it. You can see we don't have three-point hookup on the back, but we do have PTO and obviously a hitch and 3 different hydraulic controllers. And for our cab interior on this one, again, pretty good. I think this might have been made by the same mod author as the 7000 series one, because we've got the same sort of level of detail on the inside. And it does look a lot like the 7000 series cabs inside. You can see that we've got our aftermarket terminals and stuff on it, but same as before, we've got our light controls, heat, and radio up top, and then all the rest on our dash, and all of our important working stuff, range, gear shift, hydraulics, PTO, everything off to the right. So I think that this lineup is pretty solid. Again, we have a very workable range from 119 horsepower up to 302. With all of that, you definitely could play very realistically in this game. A lot of these videos that I've done so far don't have any tractors that get up to the 300 range. Basically, so far, at the time of making this video, just the white one and this Allis-Chalmers one have a over 300 horsepower large tractor. And that's important in this game because almost all of the equipment has unrealistic horsepower requirements. So if you wanted to use either like my Minneapolis Moline, my Oliver, or my Deutz ones, any of those ones don't have a great big 300 horsepower tractor that you could use as an option. At least not if it's realistic. I believe that there is a 9100 series Deutz Alice mod out there that has the 9190 engine swap to give you 375 horsepower, which is definitely fun to use, but way more horsepower than that tractor had in real life. That's like a 212 horsepower tractor, I believe. So very, very cool lineup, I would say. If you're an Allis-Chalmers fan, this is a suitable amount of tractors to get pretty much everything that you might want to do in the game done, and I think they'll look pretty good. It is a slight annoyance that you can tell that there's a slightly different shade of orange from the 8000, 7000 series, and the 8550. They all have a slightly different shade of orange, which is kind of annoying, but overall I think just really good looking tractors and a lot of fun to be able to farm with this little piece of Wisconsin heritage. So that is all for today. Hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful, especially if you made it all the way to the end. Thank you a ton for watching. And like I said, one more time, I do have a link in the description and the pinned comment to my real life farming channel, which I would be tickled pink if you could check out and subscribe, because I have a lot of fun farming on that channel. And if you're into farming, maybe you'll be into that. But that's all for today. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you liked this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.